The American parasite. No one thought it could happen in North America. A parasite that uses your body as its personal feeding ground, taking over first your stomach, then your entire GI tract, forcing you to crave the foods it wants, while slowly destroying your body from the inside out. Governments are finally admitting that this is real. Measures have been proposed in New York and the country of Mexico to try and stop it. But by the time you watch this, it may already be too late. Perhaps the scariest thing is that its symptoms come on slowly. You may never even realize your fatigue, weight gain, or lack of sleep is the result of this bad bug, until it finally takes over and forces you to seek medical attention. In the next few minutes, I'm going to show you a simple test you can do to find out whether or not you've been infected, and if so, how to get rid of it before it causes potentially irreversible damage. Warning: the information I'm about to share with you is controversial because this parasite comes from the most unlikely place, your food supply. But it's about time someone pulled back the curtain. That's why I've spent a considerable amount of time and my own money over the last few months creating this video that they do not want you to see. So if you're serious about the health of your family, turn off your cell phone, take a seat, and make sure you watch every word of this presentation. What you are about to see and hear may shock you, but it may also save your life. Let's get started. The year was 1950. The death rate by heart disease in America had jumped to an astonishing 30%. Only far back as the 1900s, it was 10%. In just 50 years, deadly heart attacks had increased by a factor of 3 times. People were dropping dead at an alarming rate, and no one could figure out why. Enter government researcher Ansel Keys. Mr. Keys was a Harvard-educated scientist who had helped design rations for the U.S. Army during World War II. Mr. Keys set out to discover why Americans had the highest rate of heart attacks out of any of the first world countries. In what would later become known as the 7-country study, Mr. Keys discovered that Mediterranean nations had the lowest heart attack rates in the world. Their diet also contained the lowest amount of fat. He concluded the American high-fat diet was to blame for our heart attack problem. Correct or not, finally, the public had an answer. In 1956, representatives of the American Heart Association appeared on television to inform the public that a diet which included fats, such as butter and lard, and fatty foods, such as eggs and beef, would directly lead to deadly coronary heart disease. The government's own health officials began recommending people adopt a low-fat diet to protect themselves and their families. If it didn't say low-fat on the label, people stopped buying it. The conglomerates scrambled to find new recipes that would allow them to call their products low-fat, yet still taste good. Food scientists were called in by the dozens, and finally they discovered something even better. You see, unlike fat, this new flavor additive was actually addicting. It goes by many different names, but you may know it best as refined sugar. Did the food industry know it was dangerous? Even many doctors of the 1950s would argue they certainly did. A 2012 study by Dr. Robert Lustig of the University of California, San Francisco, revealed that sugar is just as addictive to the human brain as cocaine, setting off the same dopamine triggers and forcing us to crave more and more of it. Over the last 30 years, more and more of these refined sugars, artificial sweeteners, preservatives, and other unnatural elements have infiltrated our food supply, creating essentially a new diet, without ever giving us a choice. This September, Paul van der Velpen, the head of Amsterdam's health service, spoke out to call sugar an addictive drug that should be tightly regulated. What do these unnatural things actually do once we put them in bodies? Why did the dogs in F. Magendie's study die faster when sugar was added to their diets? Why are more people getting sick than ever before? Why are more people suffering from obesity than ever before? And why is cancer predicted to soar by 50% by the year 2020? The answer may frighten you, as it did me. Doctors are now saying it could be the widest spread health hazard to hit North America since cigarettes, polio, HIV, or hepatitis. In our lifetimes, this one thing will affect more Americans than all 4 of these combined. In 2005, molecular biologists at Rice University estimated it was already affecting 70% of the American population. What is it? Because this disease takes over your body from the inside. Most never even know it is there until it's too late. Its name is Candida. Candida is a natural resident of your digestive tract, along with 25 trillion other bacteria, some good and some bad. So long as the balance stays in order, which scientists say now is 80% good bacteria to 20% bad, your digestive and immune systems will continue to function normally. But here's where the problem starts. Candida is a member of the yeast family. And do you know what yeast likes to eat? You guessed it. Refined sugars, artificial sweeteners, and preservatives. All of the things that have been added to our food supply in just the last 50 or so years. When you feed the Candida, it starts to breed, faster and faster and faster. Soon it has outnumbered the good bacteria in your stomach. Then it makes its way into your upper and lower intestine and throughout your entire GI tract. Before long, it begins to expand into other parts of your body, resulting in serious medical problems that can cripple your ability to enjoy a happy life. Fatigue, weight gain, sleeplessness, bloating and gas, irritable bowel syndrome, constipation, skin problems, fungal infections. These are just the start of the havoc Candida can wreak onto your body. If you're suffering from any one of these symptoms, it's very likely this parasite is to blame. The reason Candida is so dangerous is because it directly affects your digestive system, which is the largest internal organ in your body. It's also the home of your immune system. So when your digestive tract is weakened, so is your ability to combat sickness and disease. Left untreated, it can begin to affect every area of your life. General symptoms include chronic fatigue, loss of energy, general malaise, decreased libido, sensitivity to foods, chemicals, or other allergens, eczema, psoriasis, irritable bowel syndrome, toenail fungus. Gastrointestinal symptoms include thrush, bloating and gas, intestinal cramps, rectal itching, altered bowel functions such as diarrhea or constipation, yeast infections, frequent bladder infections, irritable bladder. Hormonal complaints include menstrual irregularities like pain or bleeding, premenstrual syndrome, thyroid dysfunction. Nervous system complaints include depression, irritability, inability to concentrate. Immune system complaints include allergies, chemical sensitivities, low immune function. And if your past history includes chronic yeast infections, chronic antibiotic use for infections or acne, oral birth control pill usage, or oral steroid hormone usage, your chances of having Candida overgrowth are greatly increased. One of the scariest things about Candida is the way it begins to reprogram you to crave more of the foods it wants. It hijacks taste buds, brain chemistry, and hormones to make you want foods that make it grow faster and mess you up even more. Breads, sugars, refined carbs, sodas, fried foods, carb-heavy foods like pizza and pasta, and of course, desserts and sweets. Do you often find yourself craving these things? If so, it's probably not because you're a naturally unhealthy eater, but because the bad bacteria has taken over. It's like they're down there in your stomach yelling, "Feed me," forcing you to want foods that worsen your condition, make you gain weight, and make it literally painful for you to go on a diet that doesn't include them. Candida has also been linked to many studies showing it could be the #1 cause of obesity. Here's the good news. To start feeling better, you don't have to necessarily get rid of all of the Candida. You just need to balance them out. As I mentioned before, your gut is also home to a lot of good bacteria. To start feeling your best, you just need to get to the 80-20 balance. 80% good bacteria, 20% bad bacteria. Probiotics are clusters of good bacteria that, like a powerful army, go into your stomach and form colonies that far outnumber the Candida. Scientists have recently figured out how to load your gut with probiotics without having to change your diet at all. They've been able to put these living bacteria into pill form, so you can take them with your meals, no matter what those meals may be. They offset the bad foods you eat, populate your gut with good bacteria, and instinctively balance you to the right ratio. Once this happens, all sorts of exciting changes can happen in your body. You have more energy, feel more alert and more active. You can focus better on work. You feel smarter, more productive, more creative. Many no longer have the need for coffee or caffeine, as your body is now able to get more energy from food and tap into it easily. Many also find weight begins to fall off, since your gut processes food more efficiently. If you've had trouble losing weight in the past, it could be because the Candida have clogged up your digestive tract, which can greatly slow down your metabolism. You'll also notice those carb and sugar cravings fade away. You'll actually find yourself craving good, healthy foods that make you look and feel great. All in all, your digestive tract contains 60% of the cells in your body, so it's no surprise that clearing it up can make you feel like a whole new person. Oh, and before I go, I feel it's important I tell you about one more thing. It's important we talk about the costs of not taking care of your gut, because this is not a problem that fixes itself. If you are currently suffering from fatigue, irritable bowel syndrome, skin rashes, reduced sex drive, low energy, obesity, or lack of sleep, then chances are you are one of the 80% of Americans who has some form of Candida overgrowth. The scariest part is that with 70% of your immune system in your digestive tract, if it can't function properly, you become susceptible to not just getting sick, but to some very nasty diseases like ulcerative colitis, lupus, multiple sclerosis, and arthritis. And those can't be cured by balancing your gut. That's why it's critical you get this handled now, before it's too late.
I will begin by actually highlighting the probiotic Inner Joy and discuss why the formulation is as it is. Probiotics are a difficult thing to get into the gut, so much so that one of the latest medical breakthroughs, believe it or not, is taking the feces of a healthy person and put it in the intestine of an unhealthy person, and they're getting all these great benefits. It sounds crazy, but it is a legitimate medical procedure. It gets dramatic benefits in many, many ways, and that's how important normal flora is in our intestine. But there's a much better way to do it. The reason that medicine has reverted to that is the difficulty of getting the cultures, getting the flora through the alimentary tract, getting it through the stomach. That's the big block sitting right there in between your mouth and your gut, is this pool of 4.5 pH that destroys life. So if you go to the health food store and you get a probiotic, and I don't care if it says it has 30 billion CFUs, colony-forming units, 95% of that will be killed by that extremely caustic, acidic environment of the stomach. That's why medicine has resorted to actually going through the back door, so to speak, which is crazy. They don't have to do that. There has been a product developed that has about $250 million in research done on it. I think it'll become more used over the coming years, but it's called lactospore. And because it's spore form, it actually survives the stomach acid nearly 100%. So that is the way to go, in my opinion. And I've used it through special supply houses. There are some sources that are becoming available, but we are one of the first sources in a broad market platform for lactospore, so that's going to be a great advantage for us. But lactospore alone, it needs friends. Friendly bacteria, they love to synergize one with the other, beating back the bad, the yeast, the molds, the fungi. A little bit of balance is good, and so I chose a couple of bifidobacterium strains that actually are very stable through the stomach as well. Now, because they're not spore form, a lot of it will get destroyed in transit, but these are known to be very strong against acid and very stable through the stomach. So that's why I chose those two. And bifidobacterium are the ones that you have as a young child. The immune system is highly enhanced by the bifidobacterium, and so they'll synergize with lactospore very well. And there's also a Acidophilus plantarum, and of the Acidophilus strains, it is the most stable. So we went for stability, we went for strength, we went for actual effect, and not just numbers on the label. The manufacturer said that the total count was 4 billion CFU, but the label's going to read 3 billion CFU because he says that that's just the way they do it. They like to make sure that even a couple of years later, it's shelf stable, so you do not have to refrigerate it. These are very strong, stable probiotics. Some of the more sensitive ones actually require refrigeration, but imagine when you get those very sensitive cultures out of the refrigeration, put them into your body at 98.6 plus 4.5 for acidity, it destroys them, out and out destroys them, in many cases 100%. So we'll actually be repopulating the gut very effectively over time. Some of the other products have antifungal properties, like I think everyone should be on Fulvia. It is antifungal. antibacterial, antiviral. It has effects. It also supports the immune system. And everyone that's had yeast, Candida involvement, their immune system is low. And that synergizes with the yeast. Yeast, molds, fungi, they tend to take over our bodies, and they perpetuate themselves in a number of ways. One, they actually can create cravings for you to eat the foods they want, which sounds crazy, but it's been well documented that they can secrete, whether it's some kind of hormones or scent or whatever, to make you think you want carbohydrates and sugar, so you start pounding that down, so you're feeding the yeast, mold, and fungi, the bad things in your gut. They also run your immune system down. They erode the walls of the intestines become leaky. The immune system is always on, attacking these large molecules that leak through your gut. Your immune system just can't keep it up. It ends up going to different levels of the immune system. It eventually reaches the level where it actually produces T cells, and that confers a deep immune response, but then it runs that down. So your body has less reserve to create T cells for when it needs to create T cells. Also, the liver is already challenged in our modern society because 300 known functions, and among those are detoxifying and balancing the blood, and in many cases it can't keep up. And now the liver has to break these large molecules down, the antigen-antibody complexes, and the liver becomes more sluggish, even more. It's a huge issue. So it's a downward spiral once this happens, and almost everyone is in some degree of that. So with the Fulvia helping to support the immune system, feeding our body in an uncommon way, feeding our cells so the cells can begin functioning, including immune system cells, can reset the immune system. The adrenal glands, almost everyone's adrenal glands are blown out because the adrenals have to always be on supporting the immune response, and they run down. And on top of that, people tending to work hard and on the run and high stress and all of these things running the adrenals down. It's a recipe for disaster, all of this. So that's why I'm so high on the three products that I'm really going to push, the Fulvia, Elixir Blast, because Elixir Blast is a great food, a whole food-based nutritional, that to work with the Fulvia, but then the probiotic also.